Alrighty, welcome everyone. So excited for tonight. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. I've been having a bunch of sound issues, but hopefully we are good. I am so excited for tonight, guys. Obviously, tonight is our Tuesday team training, and we opened it up because we haven't done that in a while. So if you're joining us from the Facebook group and you saw tonight's announcement, welcome. So good to have you with us as well. So, guys, I'm going to dive straight in to announcing at least the first of a couple big announcements for the night, and then we're going to dive into some training with Dad that is going to be packed with value, and we'll go from there. So let me share my screen super quick and show you what's what. Let me just share the right thing. So if you missed last week, first up, guys, we had Danny jump on and share with us. You know, Danny's been part of our community for a few years. This is just part of what he shared. Why does that look? Hopefully you can see that clearly. I'm sharing. There we go, I can see that. This is just a slide from a while back, but it says, you know, this is Danny's words. After being down 50% in my first 18 months, I turned $4,000 into 13 in just 6 weeks. TrendForce changed everything. So previously, prior to TrendForce, 50% in the wrong direction, and then with us during a 6-week period, he did that. What he shared with us last week, he shared for almost half an hour, loads of experience, loads of value, and how he's gone beyond that now, real high value. So if you want to find that recording, you can get on the YouTube channel, it's in here, and then you can click on that one. It's called The Journey, the psychology that Dad talked about last week. And in there, you can see Danny sharing throughout that. So that was really exciting. Go and dive into that. If you want to hear a story from someone on the inside of our community and you missed it last week, then, guys, it is time. We are doing a live event. So in person, Sunday, 12th of October. It has been over a year since we have done an in-person event that is open to the public. So we've done 3 in the last, 9 months or so for our community, for those of us on the inside with TrendForce. And this is the first time ever that we are opening it up for anyone in the public that is not yet a part of TrendForce to come along and be a part of the training on the evening. And the massive part for this event is the fact that we have version 4 ready to go. So that means a lot for those of us on the inside that are waiting to get their hands on this. But for you, you get to see it live in person on Sunday, the 12th of October. So inside the Facebook group, TrendForce, I am going to create an event in here tonight and put the details in there so you can find it quite easily. I've got one more announcement up there, but I'm going to save that for later. We'll leave that till the end. That's a very, very exciting one. But guys, the 12th, Sunday the 12th, for those of you who are in, near, or around Auckland, I know already of one person who I believe is flying up from the South Island potentially to join us because they were asking when the next one was. They were adjusting flights, so we let them know. But guys, Sunday the 12th, that is 2.5 weeks from today. Really encourage you to be there. The last one we had in August involved Dad's birthday and a whole lot of fun stuff. So we won't be doing a full-on meal this time around because that'll just be a bit too much since we're opening the doors, but it's still going to be a lot of fun. I'll put more details in that Facebook event for the timings and arrivals and all that fun stuff, but it is going to be a very, very special evening. So think about who you want to bring along. If you're already part of the community, you've been to our events, and if you're watching from the outside, maybe you've been to our events in the past, great opportunity to come back and have some FaceTime with all of us and learn some cool stuff and see what version 4 is all about. So guys, the last thing about that, obviously the next question is, when do you get version 4? The plan is that you'll have version 4 in your hands the next day. So Sunday night, we're going to be showing you everyone in person what it looks like. Then the next day, I've already got a couple videos that I'm busy working on so that the next day, even if you missed the live event and you're international, you'll be given version 4 and you'll be given the training video to show you exactly how it's different from version 3. And then the recorded footage from the live event, that takes me like a week to edit. That'll be up the following Tuesday. So a few announcements in there. I'm going to say one more big one for the end, but I'm sure I can't see the chat anymore. It disappeared. Who's excited about version 4 and getting your hands on that? I'm sure there's a bunch of you. I can see who's on the chat here. Yako, good to see you. Martin over in the Netherlands, good to see you as well. Lee's in South Africa. Tim, ciao. Yeah, he's excited. Tim, Dove, good to see you. AKA the other Tim. Really, really fun, guys. Cool stuff. Well, Etienne, whoop, whoop. Yeah, guys, version 4 is looking incredible. Dad and I were on Zoom for 2 hours last night working on some recordings for it to make sure that you can have the most efficient training on the updates and all the bits and pieces and how it is different. So can't wait to show you that. And then obviously comes my big job of editing a PDF, but it is going to be a lot of fun. Amanda, cool to see you there as well. And a lot of you guys, I can see a bunch of you. So good to see a bunch of you on here live with us. And obviously a bunch of you are going to be watching this later. So that is enough waffling from me. But the main thing, obviously, about this night is that we've got version 4 finished, and we're just working on the material so that everyone knows how to use it when we put it in your hands. It's impossible for us to give it to you before we give you that, because then come all the questions, but it's going to be a very smooth process. So Sunday night, the 12th, around about 7 p.m., I'll nail down that time. We'll be getting together for that event, and then the next day, everyone's going to get that indicator with the material to go with it. So very, very exciting. All right, guys. So Vic is super excited. Yeah, wait till you see the next announcement, bro. I'm saving that one till the end. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, Dad, I know you are ready to go, and we had a news event last week, and you traded it wonderfully. And so tonight, let me find you and pin you, because I know you got loads of value to share around that. There we go. And how to tackle news events. And so I am going to pin, yeah, there we go. You're on already. I'm going to unpin myself. But guys, drop some love and appreciation in the chat for Dad. All right, V4 if you're excited for V4. And who knows, maybe he'll let some cats out of the bag. I don't know. I think he's going to keep it pretty tight until the 12th. What do you think?
Yeah, we're not going to let too much out the bag, but I tell you what, it's going to be so much easier. This is really, I've just had some really good revelation. So I've been testing it for a while, making adjustments, and Ty's been, obviously we're consulting. I keep sending him updates, but it's looking really, really good. Way, way easier to pick up trades. You're going to love it. It's the basic, the same, same rules, same strategy, but way easier to interpret. And maybe I'll let one cat out the bag. You can definitely trade. If the market's trending, trade off one chart. So it takes a lot of...
As in one time frame, looking at one screen, not having to split your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the big goals.
Yeah, that was the big goal, is to be able to just trade off one screen, one chart, not looking at the 1, 3, and 8. I mean, you may still need it if the market's choppy and not trending, but way, way easier. So, wow. Anyway, it's done. Ty's had good ideas too. We put our heads together and designing it. And it's fantastic. I've been using it, and then obviously posting my trades that are the wins, that are some of the wins I've taken. I've had to take off version 4, put on version 3, so not to let the cat out the bag. But anyway, it's coming soon. Anyway,
and last little bit of hype around it. So the 3 goals that we had, number 1 was trading off one screen. Number 2 was to increase the strength of our signals. So basically removing even more, filtering out even more signals to eliminate false ones. So less but better. So definitely achieve that. And last night, we were filming something on gold, and while we were just filming, there were like 3 TP3 buy signals on gold during our 2 hours last night. So it's cooking. And then point number 3 was to make it even less noisy and just remove more and more, just to really boil it down to the most essential things that we need, because you can grab all the info in the world but then have paralysis by analysis. So we wanted to try our best to remove as much as possible. So those were our big 3 goals that we worked really hard to do, and it's done. So we can't wait for you guys to all have that. A little bit more patience, couple weeks, 2.5 weeks, then we're good to go. But otherwise, Dad, I'll get out the way and let it all be you tonight. Let's go.
There we go. I won't share my screen yet. So I want to talk about trading the news. So I couldn't help think of alliterations. I thought of Tim's top 10 tips to trading the news. So we almost got all T's over there. So news events come fairly often, and so we've got to be equipped, to trade them. So I think you may have heard me say, and others say, there's a difference between fundamental analysis and technical analysis. So fundamental analysis is looking at the big picture, what's happening in the economy, things like news events, while technical analysis is how we interpret the charts using indicators, to place trades. And so basically we do our fundamental analysis, then we use our technical analysis to take buy and sell decisions. So news events obviously hugely affect like our fundamental analysis. So I've basically got 10 little tips here tonight, and I've just really sat down and thought. I had all these thoughts in my head, what should I say? But I really just thought the things that in my head, I thought, what are the 10 most important things I've learned in trading the news? So I've got 10 points. And hopefully that will help you and set you up for success when the next news event comes by. So I'm just going to go point 1 all the way through to point 10. Then we're going to have a look at those 2 news events that were on Thursday, and just have a look, and I'll show you exactly how I traded one. And hopefully that will help us. That's how we learn. So first point is do your research. That is a real key. You can't just turn on your computer a minute before and press a button. You will lose a lot of money like that. So I'll always do research before news events. So find a website that follows news events. I know there are a number. I use one, an economic calendar that's on investing.com. I found that one very, very useful. But you can Google around, and that one I found very helpful. So it's called Economic Calendar, and it's on investment.com. but also Google around. Like I'll use the example of there was an interest rate announcement coming, and I mean, word had it there was going to be a cut. And so I Googled, I looked on some news feeds to make sure. And from I could ascertain there was a high probability of a 0.25 basis, interest rate reduction, potentially even a 0.5. So I already did my research. I wasn't, turning my computer on, is price going to go up or down? And then obviously, I mean, I know from experience when interest rates are cut, I mainly trade the Dow and the Nas. I know that they would then obviously go up. So everything pointed to price rising, a radical increase on the Dow and the Nas after the news was announced. So I did my research, and so but with the economic calendars, they're pretty useful. So you can choose different countries. You can choose what level of news events you want. So on the economic calendar I follow, they have 1, 2, and 3-star events. So I filter out. I don't go for the 1 and 2 because they often don't move the market much, but the 3-star events really move the market. I know other news sites, they got something called red folder events, and there's also the ones like the 3-star ones that really move. So I look at them. So often what I do is on Sunday afternoon, as you can choose daily or weekly, I just say, show the week. And often on a Sunday afternoon, I'll look at all the 3-star events for the following week, make a note of them. So then I'm prepared if I want to trade the news. So they also give you the exact time, so interest rates are nice for our New Zealand time zone because they're normally at 6 o'clock in the morning in winter and then 8 o'clock in the morning in summer with daylight saving. And so that's a good event. Otherwise, other ones are often at 12:30 in the morning or at other random times. So the main ones that really move the market are interest rates. That's the one I mainly trade because it suits my trading time, but also non-farm payroll, CPI, inflation, GDP. And whenever Chairman Powell opens his mouth, he's the Fed chairman, and says anything, there's something always happens. So if it says, Chairman Powell to speak, that can obviously trigger the news. So basically on the news calendar, I just check off 3-star and I also just check off America, USA news, and that's all I really follow. But obviously if you're trading in the day and you're following the Nikkei, then check off Japan. If you're trading, the pound to the dollar or the pound to the euro, you'd want to obviously check off, Britain, the London times, etc., London events, that stock exchange. So basically you need to do your research. You can't just randomly approach the charts. Do your research and be prepared for the news event. Then point number 2 is we've got to understand that trading the news carries a high risk. I mean, they have a high return, but they also carry a high risk. I heard one experienced trader once say that every 2 weeks, the trade of a lifetime comes by. And it's true. If you are patient and stick on the charts, there's always that very, very good trade that comes by. And I tell you, the news often is the place where you get some very, very, good trades. But obviously, my biggest profits, I think, have come from trading the news, as my biggest losses have. So you got to be prepared to take a risk. It is risky. So I wouldn't recommend it for beginners. I remember I keep telling my same stories, but my one biggest win still is probably my 5th biggest win, I think. I don't mean like on trade. I just learned how to press buy and sell. I'd been trading for a month. And an experienced trader said, hey, it's CPI tomorrow morning, inflation, that always moves the market. So I thought, well, I'm going to make a lot of money. And so I think I set my alarm for like 20 past 12. I think the news event was at 12:30. And I watched the chart and this huge candle appeared. I just pressed buy on this big candle. I mean, it rocketed up. Before I knew, I had 103 pips, I remember distinctly, and I closed the trade. And I remember posting on our feed, I made 103 pips last night. Like I was the expert, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just pressed buy with this first big candle. I could have lost, a lot. So, I was totally unprepared. I had no idea. And I was thinking this is the easiest way to make money. I'm just going to trade the news. And that euphoria, of course, led me to lose the money I made. Probably I got up early the next 2 mornings thinking, how hard can this be? And of course, euphoria made me lose. So the point I'm trying to make, number 2, is that trading the news does carry high risk. You need to know what you're doing. So do your research, understand the risk factor. Then number 3, you'll discover by pain and process that price action is very different with news events. Price doesn't gently chug up and gently chug down like we often see. It's hugely volatile. And we'll have a look at the example that from Thursday morning. So there also can be big stop hunts. So if you just go back and scroll the news events, there's often these huge wicks. So all the big financial institutions are waiting to take your money because they know all the retail traders, especially the newbies, are thinking they're going to make a lot of money. And so they will organize these super big wicks that come, these stop hunts. And so there can be huge these huge stop hunts that can stop you out. So that's also, part of the process. It's very volatile. And also don't be shocked by the speed and size of the candles. I mean, when I first saw that news event, I just couldn't believe how quickly price moved and how huge the candles were and the massive pullbacks. Huge dojis. I mean, I was completely unprepared. I remember once I was then, by the time one of the mentors said they were going to do the New York Open, I thought I'll just go and watch. And they weren't allowed to say, they couldn't say buy or sell, but he entered. If you hear a click, that's me entering, and a click when I exit, and I watched the Open and I heard click, click. In like 3 seconds, he was in and out, like with about 100 pips. So, I mean, it's hugely volatile. Big candles, price, moves very quickly, can be massive pullbacks. And then there's also a reversal, after the big news event, it pushes up, then often can spike down and then continue on the current trend. So it is very volatile. Price action is completely different. You need to be prepared. So I did then try and learn by just watching and going back to see what price did with news event. Then number 4, before we're going to go through 10 points and just look practically, you've got to have a strategy prior to a news event. You've got to have some kind of plan. What is your plan? What is your strategy? It's not like normal trading where you're simply waiting for a buy signal, put your stop loss, you look for TP3, and that can be quite relaxed. But you've got to have a strategy and a plan. You can't just enter on the first big candle. You see, okay, the news is announced, first big candle, that's not going to enter well. You need to be very, very well planned. So you need to have a strategy, a clear strategy. So for this last, I'll just share what I did. You've got to have a clear strategy and a plan. So what did I do for this news event? I firstly decided what I was going to trade. I was either going to trade the Dow or the Nas. Those are my favorites, and they respond very well to things like interest rates. They move well, and they're great to trade with those kind of news events. And then I also decided I'm going to trade the Dow and the Nas. I'm going to look at both. And then I'm going to also look at the one with the best trend. Now, I didn't decide that when I got up in the morning. I was thinking the day before, there's a news event at 6 o'clock. Let me really think about my strategy now. So when the charts go on, I begin to examine the charts. I'm not trying to think, now, what am I going to do if a candle comes? So I chose what I was going to trade. I also chose that I was going to trade with the trend. Then the real key, what made my trade successful, and this is what I recommend. I mean, it's hard. It's because price moves so quickly, and I'll show you this example. It's very nerve-wracking to suddenly press buy or sell on like 100 per candle. I tell you, it really, really will stretch you. So I decided the way I trade the news is I get into a risk-free position before the news event, and I've got a bit of a buffer. And so that's what I did. I managed to get into the trade 5 minutes before the news, and I got into a risk-free position, and I'll show you that in a minute. So that was my strategy. I chose what I was going to trade. I would trade the instrument that was most trending. And then also my strategy was to try get into a risk-free position before the news came. So I made that. So I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got up that morning. All right, so let me just move on. So number 5, make sure that your candle scale is correct. I mean, that's a real key. Man, I've been caught out like that before. I've shared before, my biggest loss was on the news. I mean, it was hugely volatile. There was these huge candles, and the bigger the candles got, the more I shrunk my screen. And I think I shared before that I was with another mentor on another strategy, and he said it's definitely going up. I mean, there was interest rate cuts, there was some volatility, and he said it was going up. So I thought, I'm just going to press buy. So I pressed buy on the first big candle. And when I dragged my stop loss down, I tell you what, I freaked out. I mean, I freaked out. then I got stopped out. Then I passed out because I needed like 100 pip stop loss. I had no idea. I lost my sense of scale. I mean, now I've told you quite often, the one reason why I have big round numbers is not just for the support and resistance, but actually to get an idea of the scale of the market. How big is price action? What is the volume of the market like? And so make sure your candle scale is correct. And I'll show you a good example before you trade. And so I got stopped out. I lost complete touch of the volume of the market. So I just called it the candle scale. You can call it volume scale, but make sure that the bigger the candles get, you're not shrinking your screen, because suddenly you'll get a fright, when you got to take a trade and put in your stop loss. Then number 6, get up early enough to study the trend. I said, you can't just set your alarm 5 minutes before and decide, now I'm going to, take that first candle. So, I normally get up at 5 anyway. So the news was at 6. So I got up at 5 and I studied. I looked at the Dow and the Nas. And as I will show you, the Dow was, the force meter table was mainly all green on the Dow, whereas on NASDAQ, there was a lot of orange. So it would have been a bit of counter trend with the price going up. So I made a decision I was only going to trade the Dow. Sometimes I trade them both at the same time. Once I traded the Dow, the Nas, and the Nikkei all at once. I did quite well that morning, but that was more luck than anything. But there was an uptrend and there was news and it affected all three. But you've got to get up early enough. You can't just set your alarm for 2 minutes before. You've got to really look at the charts. You've got to look at the key levels. Where are the big round numbers? Where are maybe some key trend lines from a 4-hour or 1-day chart? If you've got any fib numbers, any fib levels you put in there. And you've got to get all that sorted out. So that in the first hour, I was looking from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I was looking to enter a trade. I was only going to take a buy because I knew price was definitely going to go up by the research I did. And then I was trying to get into a trade and get into risk-free position. And I looked at the key levels. So even before I entered, I already knew where my target was going to be. I already decided, okay, I'm going to go. Well, I think I put on, I was going to go for 125 pips. I think there was a big round. I can show you on the chart, there was a big round number, and then above was S4, a daily pivot. And I thought it could hit that big round number, and there's always a wick through, and there was enough space with the kind of momentum. And so I was already prepared. Before the news came, I was only going to buy. I knew exactly what it was going to do. I knew where my target was going to be. And so by the time I got in, I was quite relaxed. I just let price do its thing. So get up early enough to study the trend. All right, number 7, of course, most important is you've got to stick to the rules. Even more so with trade in the news. Otherwise, you're just going to be seduced, by big candles. And so we got our basic, TAS for our trend zone, angle and space. Now, sometimes space is not always as important with the news because you get these massive candles that tend to blast through everything, but still be aware of what may be in the way. So stick to the rules. So wait for a signal. That's the strength of TrendForce, that there are often multiple safe ways to enter trade. All our signals are usually based on calculations that will tend to get you into a risk-free position after 1 or 2 candles. So most of our signals are very good. So always wait for a signal. Take a trade with a signal. Then, of course, no late entry. That is the only, I tell you, no late entry definitely is a no-no for the news. If you've missed the start, just stay out. Stay out, because late entries will get you into huge trouble. We'll have a look at on the Nas, although it was counter trend. I think there was a bullish candle, then there was a 70 pip doji, like a pullback. It went back 70 pips. If you clicked halfway through that first candle, you could have been down minus 50 pips because you entered late. So no late entry. Also, this is the rule, always trade with trend. That's what I chose. I was only going to trade with trend. And if I got up, honestly, if all the lights were orange, and there was a news event, I probably would have stayed out. I'm quite conservative. I only wanted to trade with trend. And then, of course, set a stop loss. That is the real key. You do not want to trade the news without a stop loss, because it can go horribly wrong, can go the other way. I'm thinking, I hope I'm not scaring you all tonight. But I'm just trying to be very real. It's a different thing, trade in the news. So
it's good, Dad. It is real. And it's like you said, your biggest wins, but also your biggest losses. I can attest to that as well. And rather than the best lessons are the ones that cost you something. We're just trying to get it to not cost you as much as it might. So it's good. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you learn by your mistakes. I mean, I say my two biggest losses are etched in my mind, and I don't have any pain over it anymore, but they've made me learn, you know. I said that one I took was at the end of last year. I entered late. I just needed, you know, I just went for 20 pips. I wanted to get a 10 out of 10 for the week. And of course, as I clicked buy, there was like a 100 pip doji going the other way. So I've learned never again. So that is part of the process of trading. So stick to the rules. Very important. Then number 8, this is very important. Stick to your safe lot size. Don't risk more than 2% of your account on any trade. So in fact, I reduced my lot size just for safety. I cut it back a bit because I thought I'm going to need a bigger stop loss. There often are stop hunts. And so you can't use a normal lot size in abnormal conditions, if I can leave you with that thought. Like trading the news is abnormal. You need a bigger stop loss. Hence, you're going to get bigger profits. So you're not going to be worse off by just reducing your lot size to a safe amount. So that was 8, stick to your lot size. Then number 9, don't be greedy. You know, I mean, I didn't realize when I was a beginner, I was greedy. I thought the news would be a quick way to grow my account. You know, so it just doesn't work. You know, over time, you realize you learn through all the pain of your mistakes. You know, set a realistic target. That's what I always do, set a realistic target. So don't try and knock it out the park. I mean, if, you know, for this news event, 0.25 is kind of guaranteed, 0.5 is a possibility. If they announced the 0.5 a rate cut, I mean, the thing would have blasted up hundreds and hundreds of pips. That's what happens. So I thought, look, I'm not going to be greedy. It's maybe 0.25. I'm going for a realistic target. And fortunately, that worked out. You know, you also don't have time for a trailing stop loss. I mean, also the speed of the candle that hit my take profit was instant. It was like boom. So if it's not like, you know, you got these nice 100 pip candles and you gently, you know, got your trailing stop loss. You have to set a target. Don't be greedy. Set a realistic target. Make sure you've got a good, you know, win to loss ratio, risk reward ratio. So just don't be greedy. And finally, number 10, I've kind of mentioned this, don't be seduced by BFOs. So BFO is a big foreign object. It's these large candles, and they're there to seduce, you know, retail traders. So often, I mean, I think I'm free from that problem now, but in my early days of trading, you see this big candle and my finger would just go click. Whether it was a big red candle for a sell or a big green candle for a buy, there's something about big candles that seduce traders. That's why they're called big foreign objects, because they tend to draw people in. And it's just crazy how tempting they can be. So don't be seduced. When you see, you know, you got to go through all the fears, you know, fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of leaving money on the table. You know, to trade the news, you have to get rid of your fear. So don't be seduced by large candles. They can be incredibly tempting. So let me just run through those 10 points. So number 1, do your research. Number 2, understand that trading the news carries a high risk. Number 3, you'll discover by pain and process that price action is very different with news events, very volatile. Number 4, you must have a strategy and a plan before the news event. Then number 5, make sure your candle scale is correct. Number 6, get up early enough to study the trend. Number 7, stick to the rules. Number 8, stick to a safe lot size. Then number 9, don't be greedy. Number 10, very important, don't be seduced by BFOs. All right, now we're going to look at just practically at those 2 trades. So I'm going to share my screen if I'm good to go. So there we go. Share, and I just got to always move a few things around. Right, so you should be seeing my screen now. All right, so we're going to go back and we're going to look at the 2 things that happen with when you trade the news. So generally, one of 2 things happen, and this is the common pattern that I've noticed most times. If you're trading an instrument with trend, what happens is when the news event comes, it tends to push up radically with the trend, and then there's a pullback, and there's a little bit of reversal. Then eventually, the trade will find its way and continue with the original trend. So that's if you're trading something that's with the trend at the news event. Then the other condition that happens, and that's what happened with the Dow largely on Thursday. Then the NAS was the opposite. The NAS was more counter trend. And so what happened with the NAS is that the news event, it spiked price up, and then it obviously had the reversal, and then you got a sell signal on the reversal. And that's the safest way to trade the news if it's counter trend. So if you only say traded the NAS, and I think Vickers told me that he traded the sell signal after the news event. Now, Vickers, that was very wise. You get a 10 out of 10 on your report at the end of this term. But if that's important, I'll say that again, it's important to understand. So this is what generally happens. If you are trading an instrument with trend, you get this big spike, a few candles that rocket up, then you get a huge pullback, and then eventually price will settle and then continue with the trend. So some traders, they ignore the news event and they wait for the pullback, then they look for an entry that continues with trend. So that's if the instrument you're trading was with trend. If it was counter trend, so you get the news event, like with the NAS, price actually was more, the trend meta table was telling us we were in a downtrend. We can see on the 1 minute it was down. The wisdom is avoid the big candles that are counter trend, then wait for a signal when price pulls back and then reverses, take the sell, which will be with trend, and you often get a good move like that because price moves up, it ends up coming down, and you normally get a big trade with trend after the news event. So let's have a look firstly at the Dow. I'll just run through what I did. So I'm just on the Dow here, I'm on the 1 minute, and we're just going to go back. So there's nice little, if you know, they've got this nice option, a little calendar here. So we're going to go back to Thursday the 18th, and let's go to the morning. Let's go to 5:45 in the morning and see what was happening. 5:45, Thursday the 18th. Go to, and let's see it get us there. So here we go. So this was the news event. So here we go. Doesn't this look nice? This was the news event, and there was a nice little trade. Now that chart probably looks normal to everyone. Does that not look normal? Nice little 30 pip trade? Not at all. So this is the first mistake you can make, is not looking at the candle scale or the volume scale. If we just put some big round numbers in, I'm sure this is going to open your eyes. So let's go down to 45,900, and we're going to put a few in to see what price is actually doing. Then we go to 49,900. Then we go to, where's the next big round number? Big round, it was a big round number, 46,000. And let's clone this again.
Didn't someone create an indicator for this?
Yeah, no, but it won't go back that far right now.
I know, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. I'm just making a point here. So if we look at the scale now, can you see, look at these, sorry, I left out one in between. This is crazy now, but look at the scale. So here we got, these are big round numbers. So initially the price looked completely normal to you, but actually each one of these lines is 100 pips. So my normal scale, if I'm normally trading, this is what my chart looks like. I normally have a gap like that. Roughly half the screen is 100 pips, and then I have like 50 below and 50 above. So can you see the size of those candles, how huge these candles were? They were massive. Huge. And so that would be a normal scale. So you can see there's that saying off the charts, you know where it comes from. Can you see price went literally off the charts? That's where the saying comes from. So you can see what price looked like. So I got up at 5 o'clock. So I got up, let's actually do replay here. So let's just enter replay, see if we can get that working. So I got up at 5 o'clock. So when I got up, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. We don't have to be too accurate. So there's 5 o'clock. So this what price looked like when I got up. So I looked, if I had the normal price scale, I was probably looking at something like this. And so I was watching. So I was looking, I knew that I knew that the news would cause price to go up. And I won't put the table now, but sort of confuse you, because it's obviously for the current time, not for going back Thursday, but almost everything was green. So very close to being completely on trend, more in an uptrend than downtrend. So if we begin to play out this trade, I may just press pause a few times. So we can see I was waiting to enter a trade so I could get into a risk-free position before the news. So now we're already at, what time are we at? We're at 5:11, 5:12. So I was just waiting, being patient, waiting to enter a trade, waiting for a safe entry. So I was watching. We're now 20 past 5, 22 minutes. I was watching, waiting. And so price was going more or less sideways. And of course, I was getting more excited, getting closer to the news, which was at 6 o'clock. And price was going nowhere. Price was just going sideways. So I was trying to work out a safe place to enter a trade. So there was a sell signal. I ignored that because that didn't fill the news. And then we were just getting a few minutes of the news, a sell. I ignored that signal. So I was only going to take buys, remember? So I was waiting. Whoopsie, there we go. So I've pressed pause. That's where I entered. Price broke a trend line. There was no time to draw it. No, in fact, it generated a trend line there. It broke that trend line. So I entered. As soon as price broke that trend line, boom, I was in. On the candle before, there was buy momentum. There was a triangle up, also 2 candles back. On the buy momentum, there was bright green histogram, bullish crossover. And as that buy signal came, boom, I was in. So I want to watch how quickly, oops, let me just get that off the screen. You'll see how quickly price moved. So if I put it on now, just watch. Now, obviously, we got 1 second. So I pressed buy, and then there was the first candle.
And you preset a TP, remember, right?
Yep. So as soon as I pressed buy, I knew where my TP was going to go. In fact, it was about where the TP3 was, but that was coincidence because there was S4, a daily S4 was right about where TP, but I ignored the TPs. I decided that I wasn't going to be greedy. There was 100 pips almost to the big round number from when I entered down here. And I thought 125, I mean, that's a great trade. I only aim for 30 a day. Sometimes I get more, sometimes less. But there was a whole week's target in one trade. So I was happy just to go, especially the uncertainty of the 0.25 and the 0.5. And so the trade played out. So let's press play again. So now we're on the third candle. So I was now, after the third candle, I just moved my stop loss to +2. And I left it there. So I thought, if there's a stop hunt, cool, I'll make 2 pips and I'll walk away, no loss, no problem. So I wasn't being greedy. And so then we can see the trade begin to play out. There was a slight pullback. And then, wow, can you see that? Look at that. Now that was, that, I wonder if I can go back one.
That was Rocket Labs showing up on the Dow.
That was Rocket Lab. I mean, I was up 25 pips on this candle. So I entered here and I kept my stop loss. There was no time to move it. I was up about 25 pips. And I thought, okay, 25 is enough. I wasn't going to use a trading stop loss. I was going to keep my stop loss at 2 in case there was a pullback. I would have had, I remember the real screen was probably something like this. And so when it came to that candle, I was up 25 pips. And in an instant, I mean, it was a millisecond, it took out my 125 pip take profit. I mean, I'm not boasting, I made hundreds of US dollars in a split second. That's the joy of trading. So, I mean, it was just crazy. It was the speed of that candle was, can you go back? I'm sure there's a way, let's just go, see if we can go back one. Now, just watch this candle. So, this is 557. So we've got 3 candles, and just watch. Now, obviously, we're doing a second a candle, so it's slightly faster, but still, just watch the speed of that candle now. On the news event, watch this. Boom. It was like a millisecond, and then price did go up another. I could have got more pips, and then after that, it reversed and came back down and settled on trend. But that is, you can see just the speed. We can turn it off now. Just the speed of that candle in the news. It's gone right back to probably the beginning. Let's just pick that up again. Are we in the right place? Go to. Okay, then also reverse down. So you can see the speed of that candle. I mean, that is massive pips there. So that's the normal screen. My normal screen size with that. So it's a millisecond. And you can see again from that, if you were like trailing a stop loss, that candle, I mean, that thing dropped way down. That thing pulled back 110 pips. And then it went up, like, another 70 pips. So imagine trying to like trail your stop loss. You'd enter on that candle, and before you know, it's come back like 70, 50 pips, you minus 50. That's why enter on a signal, find a safe place. So that was how the Dow played out. Let's just go to the NAS. Was that Vickers, I think, hit it right there. We go to the NASDAQ. And we'll also look at how that trade played out. So that was more in a counter trend. So let's see if this calendar sticks here. 18th, go to. All right. So it's kept my, when I was looking at this earlier. So can you see when I looked at both? I mean, obviously I won't, well, let's just also, we'll do the replay. I saw this counter trend signal come, but then I saw all these moving averages, the 233, we did get above it by the time the news came, but then I saw, look at this, you got the 2584 and you got the 987. I thought that's only going to be trouble, and it proved right, because this trade, I mean, it opened here, and this wasn't big for the news because it was counter trend, and so that only went up like 75 pips or so. So the way to have traded this is what I think Vickers did, is but if I only had the Nasdaq to trade, I would not have taken that signal. Too risky, too kind of trend. There was mostly, in that the TrendForce meter table was mostly the wrong colors. So you would have waited for the reversal, then taken the sell, and that's exactly how it played out. That candle, there was a nice sell afterwards. There was 131 pips there. Okay, this was a bit rickety. Your stop loss would have been safe, and there was another sell, another 100 pips there. So that would have been the way to trade a counter trend news event, is ignore the news event, buy, because it's only going to cause trouble, then wait for the pullback. And we can see how the pullback was way bigger than the news event. So something that bounces up quickly is going to come down. So I think those are the keys. I don't know if there are any questions, Ty. That's how. Well, let's just put. We got time.
Do me one favor. Go check out gold at the moment that it hit. Remember, Mike threw it in the chat as well that one of the signals, it was a stop hunt, but a couple times we've noticed that the stop hunts and the TPs, they still deliver.
Okay, let's have a look.
And I'm pretty sure the moment that the news event was released on gold.
I didn't even look at gold. I should have maybe. So here we go. Let's go to gold and see what happened. Ew, look at that.
Yeah, so you can't see the take profit anymore, but the bottom of that wick was, I'm pretty sure, TP3.
Yeah, wow.
And then it went the other way. So anyway, it was just,
that's why I said
even though it was a stop hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said one of my mentors, all you heard was click, click. And he had like 100 pips because he traded that very quickly, a big wick like that. That's amazing. So that was the news event, was the doji. Then you got this massive stop hunt. Look at that wick. Remember, when you see big wicks, sellers were trying to push price down. Buyers said, no ways, we're going up. And then price went up the other way. And then eventually, price came back on trend, broke below all the major trend zones and moving averages. That was a huge move down. We can see there was a counter trend signal there. That was 280 pips. So that was gold. Let's just see what the Nikkei did. How did the Nikkei respond? JPN 225, let's just see. Because that is it's not so active in the afternoon sessions, but around news events, it can also take a bit of a move. So let's just go back to the Nikkei. See, that was a nice buy signal. Look at this. When was this? 117 pips at lunch today. So let's also go back to see what the Nikkei did on the news event. Look here, look at this. This was where we go. Here we go. Look at this big stop hunt. Look at that. So that big wick means, look at that wick there, 65 pips. Buyers were trying to push price up. Sellers said, no way. And look at this. Price ended up going with trend. So again, this is a bit like the Nasdaq. To take a buy there on the news event would have been dangerous. Counter trend. You let the trade run out, then you trade with the reversal coming down. That candle would have opened there somewhere, and you would have got, there's 150 pips on that signal, exactly like the Dow. It was a pullback, then another sell signal, and that went for 116 pips. We got a buy signal because we crossed the 233. It would have been a bit counter trend. But man, if you're using this indicator today, you would have had about, 400 pips with those three signals. Could have made some good money just doing the JPN 225, the Nikkei. But obviously, generally in the afternoon UK session, New York session, which is our morning, it tends to go a bit flat after the open. Normally, let's just see the open. But sometimes it can be rangy. So the open, there wasn't a bit of a move here. So the open was around 130. We got a buy signal. There was how many pips there? 55, not too bad. We won't get poor taking 55 pips. Anyway, let's just actually, while we got a few minutes, let's just see if Bitcoin reacted to the news. So let's have a look at Bitcoin. We'll go back to those dates. Let's go back to Bitcoin and see what happened in the news, if that affected Bitcoin. So we can see here 6 o'clock. Look at that. Look at that. Wow, just dojis. Again, same as the Dow and the Nikkei. It was counter trend. So price respected the EMAs, and then you wait for the pullback, and then, gee, price dropped a lot there. 750 pips, although the measurement is different, would be 75 on the Dow and NAS, but still same pattern. The NAS, the Nikkei, pullback, then another signal. They all followed exactly the same patterns, all those three. Interesting. All right, Todd, I don't have any questions, but I'll just hand back to you.
No, I think you nailed it. I don't see any ones in particular. Vickers was asking when you entered, but you covered that. So very, very cool.
Yep. So that is all from me. I'll hand back to you and turn off my screen share if there are no questions.
No, I don't see any. Probably no. I think everyone's just frothing for version 4. That's all. But before we get there, we've got one more announcement, guys. So obviously Sunday night, the 12th of October, that is going to be our next in-person event. That is going to be the earliest you can get your eyes on version 4. Dad's going to do a full walkthrough of what it looks like, how it functions, how it's different, and it'll also be fully, fully understandable for anyone who's brand new coming along. So think about who you want to bring with you, guys. Like, doors are open. We want to let as many people see this as possible now. But along with that, there's one more thing. So I'm going to share my screen. This has been something I've been waiting to do for a very, very, very long time. And so, no, not the website. That is done. You can head there if you haven't been there before. Grab our free course, instant access, name, email address, etc. TrendForce.co, and you're there. But let's see, what's Danny saying? Have you tried? Have you tried stop limit orders for news events? No, I haven't like that, but I know that it has worked for you, bro. So I don't think Dad has either. We're more so.
One of the ladies did that. They put in a buy and a sell order with a 30 pip stop loss. So no matter which way it went,
it was in the chat.
Yeah. Was that in the chat? That was brilliant. I
think it might have actually been Danny. But yeah, we'll see. We can explore it because there's definitely ways for that to happen. Okay, so all right, guys. So promo time. Here it is. Our first ever physical piece of TrendForce is going to be available to be in your hands at our live event. So I'm going to get some shirts made finally, and not just any shirts, guys. I am a bit of a t-shirt quality geek, so I'm wearing one of these right now, AS color. These are, $35 a pop. These are, I'm not kidding, have got like 3 dozen of these t-shirts in my cupboard. They're the only ones I wear. So I will be getting these printed on the shirts that I wear every day. And that is our first run. The designs in the future will be different. I've already got some in the pipeline. This is going to be our first ever TrendForce t-shirt. So I am also exploring which woman's one to go with at the moment. I haven't had a chance to chat with my wife yet, but there will be a woman's one. But here's the deal, guys. I need to know sizes and how keen you are. So I'm going to get a bunch of these made, but I would love to not make a bunch in the wrong size, for instance, and just have those on hand. So let me know. I want to put something in the chat, and I would love to know if you want to get your hands on these. Like I said, the shirt on its own is 35, so I'm going to do my very best to keep these as close to 50-ish as possible. It depends on how many I get made, but I'll do my best to grab a stack so that we lower that price. But the print room, guys, they're based in Dunedin. They are probably one of the top t-shirt printing companies in the country. This is going to be quality. So I am beyond fired up and excited for this. As you can tell, this is not a fake Zoom background. This is real, and now it's time to actually get some t-shirts made. Who knows what might come next? There might be mugs, there might be, I don't know, diaries, all sorts. But for now, I really want to get those t-shirts done, and I'd love to get them into your hands. So if you are keen, let me know ASAP. I'm going to put something in the chat, and you can maybe just vote on there or send me a message as well. That might even be better. And then I know what size you are, and I can lock you in for one and make sure that there's going to be one for you. So Very excited about that. Who's excited? I can see some cool emojis in there. Danny's got the stars in his eyes. Love it. Very, very cool. And Dad's got wow emojis going. Yay. Okay, cool stuff. Well, guys, that is us for this evening. We're up to almost 9 o'clock, but I am so excited for the 12th. I'm going to be honest, I got a lot of work to do for us between now and then. 2 hours of recording with Dad last night, so now I've got a bunch of editing to do. We've got one more video to do as well, and then comes that PDF. But it is going to be a smooth process, and I can just tell you now, it is worth it. Like, I really didn't want to do this a couple months ago when Dad said he had version 4 pretty much ready because of where we were at with everything, but it is worth it. We've really, even yesterday morning, we made a couple breakthrough tweaks before recording, which are just really iron out and just increase the profitability and lesser frequency of another signal that we have on that chart. So really excited for you guys to get this and to be able to do it on one screen, whether you're on a phone or just one screen itself. Things are never going to be as clear as to what we mean by trend and TrendForce. You are seriously going to know when you have dipped into liquidity and what causes price to seriously move. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Yeah, Dave, I am using AI as much as I can for this thing. It just editing these videos to make them clean definitely takes the human touch, unfortunately, for this level, for these kinds of videos. But guys, we'll wrap it up there. Once again, remember the 12th, I'm going to create a Facebook event for us in the Facebook group. So once I've done that, I'll share it in our Facebook Messenger chat. Please go in if you're coming along so we can get indication of numbers. And please do us a huge favor and think about who you can bring along or invite actually to the event, digitally speaking, so then they can click going. It'd be so cool to be able to host some friends and introduce some new people to our community. And that'll be it. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. Trade safe, and we'll see you in the chat and in person on the 12th if you are nearby. All right. Good night, everyone.